Thanks for being on, Cameron.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited. You were actually the first person that came to me one day when I saw you at that Halloween party, and you
Yes.
said, hey, when are you going to let me be on your podcast? So you're the first person that's actually asked to be on it. And I was
Thank
like,
you.
well, the fact that you asked, then I absolutely want you on here.
You
so,
provide what seems to be a pretty comfortable place for people to come and talk.
Well,
so
good.
That made me more
Good.
lean towards you.
Yeah. Well, that's what I wanted it to be. I want this to be where people learn about you, what you do, and just to share stories about our industry and all parts of it. And so you're actually the first title person I've had on here.
Wow. Thank you.
And so I'm just excited to talk to you, to get to know you a little bit better. There's so much I actually don't know about you.
I know. And we've known each other forever.
I know. And I actually feel like one day you just like popped up on the title scene.
It kind of felt that way.
And I literally don't know how long
Yeah.
you've been in the business. And
Okay.
so tell us, you work at...
I work at Lubbock Abstract
okay.
Title Company.
Yes.
I am the branch manager, one of the closers over there with Steve Shanklin at the branch office. And then we've obviously got a downtown location where we've got Gail, who does some commercial closings with us. And the rest of our really our whole operations for title work is all done at our downtown location.
Okay.
So they go to the courthouse, they do all this stuff, they send us the title commitment, and then we work with the lenders and the realtors to help clear up the title problems from
Okay.
there. But how I got into it's kind of crazy. All kudos really goes to my aunt. She started at Lubbock Abstract back probably like 1998, 1999. And then my mom got a job early 2000s, I think probably 2000, 2001.
Well, and so just for everyone, if you don't know, Shelly
Yeah, if
is
you
who
don't
you're
know
talking
Shelly
about, and
Nettle,
she's your mom.
yeah, all the realtors love my mom.
Yes.
She cuts the checks, she calls
right.
them
She's
and
the
tells
money
them
lady.
it's funded.
Yeah.
She's the best. If it wasn't for her talking to Steve and convincing him one day that I didn't need to be working in a dairy cooler at United Supermarkets.
Is that what you were doing?
Yeah, I was stocking. I was doing receivables at Market Street on 19th Street, and then they moved me to dairy, and I was like, wow, what a promotion! You know, I get to sit in a cooler all day and listen to music.
Some days that sounds kind of nice,
It
right?
does sound kind of nice. And then there's days like today where I'm like, I'm glad to be working in
right.
a normal place. But I came over and the rest is history. I started from the ground up. I learned how to receipt contracts. I learned what a contract was, how to set it up. I got to learn and watch from Megan Kendall, Carrie Gilmore, Steve Shanklin, Redora Graham, like kind of in my opinion, some of the best, if not the best title people to really ever touch Lubbock. And I know we're blessed with so many others, and I don't mean any disrespect to the title company. We got great ones like Brent Noble out there and David Frisbee's. And, you know, we've got a lot of good title people in town, but I was blessed to truly get to learn from really two of the best closers in town with Carrie and Steve. But then just to be around family all the time.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite parts about Lubbock Abstract.
Yeah.
Is it's just a family.
Well, I actually had a closing there this morning. And I went. I try to go to as many closings as I can.
It's one of my
I can't
favorite
always.
things. Absolutely.
Thank you. And it was with Steve. And I did mention that you were going to be over here today recording. And he was like, oh, you need to tell him to talk about Lubbock Abstract and the history and all that. And so
Lubbock Abstract is one of, as far as we know, one of the, if not the oldest title company to be in Lubbock.
Okay.
We've had people like Pink Parrish.
He showed me the business card. He took it off his wall and showed me that.
It has like a 3-digit phone number
yes,
on it.
Yes, that's what he pointed out. 928.
928, that's what it was, I think. Yeah. And Steve's really, I got to give Steve a lot of credit. He's one of the most humble people I've ever had the opportunity to be around. But Steve deserves a lot of credit for what's happened in the title industry in Lubbock, in my opinion. He has been the head owner with a couple of other people, but he has been the head owner for 52 years this upcoming July.
That's what he said. He said it had been, I knew it was 50 plus years.
Yeah, 52.
And that's crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. And to watch him and how he's able to manage stress and conversations with people and the way he uses like proper semantics to navigate difficult situations, just to kind of help everybody know that like what we're experiencing, whether you're delayed closing or the the buyer's out of town and we didn't know that, like, we're used to all those things, but Steve's able to really help articulate to people
Yeah.
so that way they understand that this isn't a foreign territory
Right.
that we're in, and we'll still close.
Yeah.
And so getting to learn things like that has been really beneficial for me. But honestly, in high school, I was the janitor for the branch office at Lubbock Abstract.
Wow.
Yeah, so for like 2 years, I was up there 3 times a week cleaning. And then I graduated high school in 2010. I went on a little mission trip for my church. I came back, and then I kind of just got lost and went to United. I didn't know what I wanted to do. School for me wasn't ever really something that I felt like was going to work.
Yeah.
I did not like sitting in a class. I didn't like listening to the teacher. I wanted to talk to my friends and play sports and have
I'm
fun.
surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
It's not like I talk all day, every day. But I just was like, school's not going to be for
Yeah.
me, but I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And then the blessing came. I got a phone call one day, and next thing I know it, I'm signing a Post-it note. It was my first contract.
Aw.
Steve wrote down, here's your salary. Every daylight savings time, you have to come in and change the batteries of every clock
clocks.
and change the time on all the clock. I don't know if y'all know about Steve's clock collection, but
Yeah.
him and Melinda, his wife, every time they go on vacation, she'll sneak a clock into the bag.
How funny.
Or somebody else will go on vacation and bring a clock and give it to Steve.
How
And he
funny.
keeps all of them in his office. So
Yeah.
I've laughed at that because that was my contract. It was a Post-it note. And I signed it and I said, absolutely, sounds great.
Yeah.
I've never once had to change a battery or the time on one of those
That's
clocks.
hilarious.
So I did pretty good with
Yeah,
navigating
yeah.
that contract.
So what year was that?
Graduated 2010. I think I started there in April or May of 2012.
Okay.
So I have been there for 12 years.
And then when did you start closing?
2016, 2017, I think
Okay.
is when I probably started picking that up. And I just started with refinances for sale by owners. That's how I kind of got everything. I started to kind of learn the lingo that way.
Yeah.
And then from there, I think my very first client, and he still is to this day, was John Darden. And it was one of the wildest closings I think I've ever done to this day still. We had a seller who was in prison, and we had
wow.
a power of attorney and like all these moving parts. And through that whole process, I think the closing ended up taking like 4 or 5 months to get
Wow.
completely finished. But the way it all just kind of worked out, that's really where I started to learn how to cut my teeth, was through that and how to problem solve.
Yeah.
So kudos to John for having faith in me. And then it's really just blown up from there. And I don't know why people trust me to continue to do this, but I'm so blessed with
Yeah.
it and I love it.
Well, you're a very likable person.
Thank you.
And I think that, like, in closings, I feel like you do an amazing job of like educating a buyer.
Thank you.
They oftentimes, and a seller too, that oftentimes the buyer doesn't fully understand that. I mean, they know they're coming to close on a house, right? They know they're there to sign their loan docs.
Yeah.
But there's so much that they're told in that meeting, and it's kind of like drinking from a fire hydrant. And so
100%.
there's so many things that they may not understand, and I think you do a great job of trying to educate them
Thank you.
in that process.
I try because I feel like I'm kind of that last stop. I really am. I mean, we are as title agents the last stop until they go and make their first mortgage payment.
Right.
And y'all do so much between the lenders and the realtors of planting seeds throughout the 30 to 45 days of like, okay, here's how a mortgage works, and this is how much you're going to be paying. I think a lot of people focus on just what's my bottom line going
Right.
to be, not what does that go into.
Right.
And so as I was kind of cutting my teeth through that first little bit, we got a lot of phone calls on like property taxes and how does that work, or homeowners insurance and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, why don't I just kind of put all that together into my closing and kind of help replant, rewater, and sow the seeds in a little bit deeper so that way the roots can start to grow. And I'm not thinking that that's going to save phone calls down the line, but it may save a few,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And
Well,
if nothing else, hopefully it just gives that new home buyer or that new, let's say that, you know, somebody who's lost their spouse and they're buying their first home by themselves for that first time. It's giving them that reassurance and that reminder of what their next steps are
Right.
going to be.
Yeah.
Because that's stressful.
It is super stressful. And I mean, I would say both of us alike, but probably more so you. You see a lot of wild situations because you deal with so many different things.
Yeah.
And I really think the majority of people don't actually understand title insurance, the purpose of it, or really what you do as a whole. They know they're coming there and you're doing the transaction. But let's talk a little bit about like what is title insurance and why do people need it?
Yeah, it's really simple. Title insurance will ensure you that you're buying a home that you own free and clear, no debts, no liens, no judgments on the property, unless you're getting a loan to buy that house. And then that loan will go into first lien position. But what we're clearing is everything from sovereignty to the day of closing and making sure that nothing got filed in between there, making sure that the legal descriptions were correct, making sure that the pool guy was paid whenever they installed the pool at the last, those are the types of things that we're in charge of clearing up for you before you buy that house.
Yeah.
That way you and your lender know there's nothing else we have to worry about. You make your mortgage payments, everything else will end up working out.
So how do you do that though? Like how do you check all those things?
So it's a pretty convoluted process. I mean, it starts, maybe not convoluted, but it's complicated to a degree where like we get the contract, we send it to our team downtown. They search names to make sure that there's no terrorists, that there's nobody on a most wanted list, that there's nothing like that we have to worry about. Once that's cleared, then we start searching the property records and we make sure that the taxes have been paid, the deeds have been cleared, all the legal descriptions were correct every single time it got filed. We go to the courthouse, we make sure that there's no liens that maybe got accidentally misfiled in the non-real property records that we maybe needed to drag over. If there's a death, we've got to make sure that the seller side has done and managed that death properly in the family, that they either probated the will, or if there was no will, we work with them to help them get an affidavit of heirship so that way they can sell the house as a family and be able to do what they need to do with that money to move forward. We do all of that, clear all of that up, and then that's when we start to put our numbers together with the lender. That's when we start to get the invoices and we start to get all this stuff together, and then right at the last, hoorah, like 24 to 48 hours before closing, it all comes together.
Yeah.
And then y'all send us the closing package and we get them closed.
Which I think, so basically the way I always explained it when I was in real estate and even now in mortgages, I tell everyone the title company, as far as the closing goes, you are a disinterested third party that brings the buyer and seller together.
Yes, ma'am.
That actually does the closing. So you're setting up escrow for them. You're sending the checks off. So like you are technically collecting the funds for all of the things, and then you disperse the funds.
And we do that because exactly what you said, we're a disinterested third party. We want what's best for everybody. We don't want what's best just for that agent or that client or that person, because if we're just trying to cater to one person or another, we're not doing our best due diligence as a title company. So yes, that's why we do that, because we want to make sure the taxes get paid. We want to make sure your insurance gets sent off correctly. That way you don't have to worry about it. You can go and just start moving in, or you can just start moving out. Whatever that needs to be, we try to take that off of y'all's plate. And that's what every title company in town tries to do.
And you're filing, like what I always try to tell people too is, hey, when you get anything in the mail, don't pay anyone any money to file your homestead exemption or to file your warranty deed. And people are getting so sneaky that I had a borrower not too long ago that paid someone to file their warranty deed because it looks so real. And so us also then trying to follow up and tell people like, you guys are taking care of everything. So once they've left you and once it is funded, like all they have to worry about is moving into the house
and then make your mortgage
making their first payment.
File your own homestead exemption. It's free to do. If you don't know how to do it, call your realtor, call your lender, call the title company. We'll walk you through it, But besides that, go get moved in, make your first payment, and live your life. And go be a successful homeowner, because that's what's going to happen, If we're all doing our part to educate and to help, then we're going to do nothing but set people up for success. At least be there for them to help them succeed.
So, okay, let's talk about this for a second. I mostly in Lubbock County, and I don't know how it is everywhere else, but typically the seller is the one who
Yeah.
pays for the title policy.
Yes, ma'am.
The buyer has a portion that they pay
Yes.
for,
Yes.
but the seller is the one who typically pays for that.
Yeah.
During COVID, during the crazy season, we definitely saw the title policy being a part of the negotiation where maybe the buyer would pay for it, and things like that. But typically, seller pays for that. Is that what you would say mostly y'all see too?
I'd say 90%, 95% of the time. Like you said, pre-COVID, I would have told you 100% of the time the seller pays for the title insurance. And it makes sense. You want to show to your buyer that you are a good seller. If a lien pops up or something, I'm not saying that's your fault, but you want to make sure that you're giving them a house that you, to your best interest, feel safe handing over as well. You don't want them to take on anything that may have been filed either.
Yeah.
So that's where it kind of helps end, where we get to do that and help clear everybody's mind to a certain degree too.
Have you ever seen times where, whether it was y'all or have you heard of other title companies where maybe they've had to, where the title policy has come up that there was a lien that wasn't there?
I think that, and each title company has their own way of doing things. I would assume that most title companies, so title insurance has its place, right? I would assume that most title companies probably have something in place where if it's a small enough of a deal, they're probably going to try to handle it without getting the underwriter involved. Because if you ever have to get the underwriter involved, you don't really want to have to do that. You're going to have strikes against your record or whatever it's going to be. And you don't want to have a bad relationship with the underwriter either. You don't want them to think that you're going to be a high risk taking on closings that maybe you shouldn't be closing just because you want to try to help somebody out, like a realtor out or something like that.
So is it the same concept like how we have underwriters?
Yeah, so our underwriters will make sure that the survey, let's say that like the property lines are all right. The survey is showing that the fences are on there, or that the legal description is all correct on there. The underwriters will check and see if, maybe if we have a deceased person, but we have proof of this, and this, that maybe there's a way we can circumnavigate having to go through a probate or an affidavit of heirship. And we can lean on the underwriters to kind of give us the advice on all that. We've been really blessed because we've had in-house underwriting counsel for forever.
I didn't know that.
So we've got a lady downtown that we can call and say, hey, you're a wealth of knowledge. Tell me how to navigate this. And she'll tell us kind of what she thinks we'll need to do. There's times where we still have to get the people in Houston and Dallas involved, and that's okay. They're easy to get in touch with. So it's just a checks and balances and kind of a brainstorming type situation with our underwriters sometimes. And what are they willing to take a risk on that maybe they wouldn't be willing to take a risk on another situation. So it has its I don't know. Sometimes it can get frustrating though, there's sometimes where you're like, this is common sense, but also there's laws in place and you have to follow those things. And that's where the underwriter steps in and is like, hey, I know what you're wanting to do here, but to protect you and your title company, this is going to be the best thing to do.
Well, and I would say, that's the same in our case. The way I look at it, underwriting is not always black and white. Some people are going to say it is.
Yeah.
I personally feel like, there's a lot of gray in there.
Absolutely.
And it's the same thing as, law and interpretation of law.
Yeah.
And it's not always completely black and white.
No.
And so you have a lot of things you have to take case by case. And so, that's very much the same in our world too.
And the nice thing is you don't, competition is always great, right? And so we have a lot of really good title companies in town. I think Lubbock Abstract's the best. But we have a lot of great title companies in town, and we have a lot of really good relationships with those title companies in town. So if there's something I can't close, my goal is just to make sure you get closed.
Right.
And if I can't do it or my company can't do it, then I will get you in touch with
Yeah.
another title company that I know can handle it in the same delicate way that we would handle
Yeah.
it. And I hope that that's vice versa
Yeah.
too, you know?
Well, and I would say I think that is very much the case. I feel like all of the title companies in town, it is very much of, hey, I can't do this, but
Yeah.
they might be able to,
Yep.
or everyone just seems to really kind of work together because I think they are looking at that
Yeah.
common goal
And-
of getting
and
the borrower
if,
closed.
if that's everybody's common goal, then everybody's going to succeed.
Sure. Yeah.
You don't have to cut, you don't have to stab people in the back and do
Yeah.
things shady ways. You can do it the right way and still scratch their back, and, and it's all going to work out for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
It's all going to work out for everybody.
For sure.
But-
Well, so, okay, another thing, like, doesn't the state set the actual cost, though, for the
and
title
that's
policy?
one of my favorite things about Texas. There's other states around the country where the title company can determine what the title policy amount is going to be. And that's great for them because it's a very competitive market in those
Why
states.
do they do that?
I think for the competitive situation where a title company can say, okay, well, they're going to charge $2,200 for a title policy. I'll do it for 16. I don't know if that's the case, but that's my assumption.
That seems like
right?
that would be a nightmare.
Yeah, and I wouldn't enjoy that.
No.
Texas makes it really simple. If somebody doesn't like how much a title policy is, I can't do anything about it. I
Yeah.
just have to tell you it's a Texas promulgated fee. That's what the state tells me to charge based off of your sales price. So that's what the title policy is
Yeah.
going to cost you.
Okay. So, I mean, when you're looking at different title companies, because typically, again, seller or seller's realtor, I
Right.
would say most of the time is the one who chooses the title
Absolutely.
company, right? Because they're
Absolutely.
going to pay for it.
Yep.
And so, how, like for you as a person who is very relationship oriented,
Mm-hmm.
how do you get the business that you get?
I think that's simply what it is. I really do. I also hope that it's the sincerity of our company when it comes to handling delicate situations, because I think that we pride ourselves on being able to, you call our office and whoever picks up that phone is most likely going to be able to answer your question. You're not going to have to wait for the closer to get out of their
Right.
closings before you can talk
Yeah.
to them. You can call and talk to Shauna. You can talk to Megan. You can talk to Shelly. You can talk to Rebecca. You can talk to Kelly. Somebody is going to have an answer for you,
Right.
and you don't have to wait for that. So for me, it's what can we provide service-wise, but also know that like we're in this out of the sincerity of our heart because we want you to succeed, but we also want your clients to succeed.
Yeah.
We want your first-time home buyer to have an amazing experience, to be able to come back to you and go and buy another house. And we want that to be your experience with us.
Yeah.
We want to make it a celebration for you
Sure.
too. Closing for so long was just like show up and sign and get
Yeah,
out of
it's
here.
boring.
Right. And
Yeah.
like, that's boring. This is a celebration.
Yeah.
I had a closing with a guy a few weeks ago that was 72 years old and had just worked his whole life to be able to buy a home. He
Was that
bought
his
his
first?
first home at
Aw,
72.
Wow.
And handing him, like, I still get goosebumps, like,
Yeah.
just talking about it, because handing him the key was like a life-changing thing for him.
Yeah.
And he had waited so long to
Yeah.
be able to get
That's
to do
sweet.
that. So being part of situations like that is why we do what we do
Yeah.
every single day.
Yeah.
But like, it makes you want to go to work every day because you don't know who's going to bless you, but you also don't know who you're going to be a blessing to as well.
Yeah.
And that's what we strive for.
Yeah, I love that. And I was doing another recording earlier, and we were talking about how there's never a boring day.
Yeah.
We see so many wild situations that there's just always
Yeah.
something.
And no two situations are ever the same.
No, they're not. And I also would say too, I mean, which you probably see more sensitive situations than anything, because most people that come to me, I mean, they need a loan, so they're going to buy a house,
Absolutely.
right? We do see situations where maybe there's a divorce and so one's got to refinance into,
Yep.
things like that. So there definitely are some situations that are maybe a little bit harder, but you probably have just you see it all.
Yeah. One of these days, like if I can remember everything, I could probably write a dictionary book. Like if Steve were to be able to take all of his experiences over the 52 years, I think he'd have 3 Harry Potter series
Right.
filled out
Trilogy?
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he tells me every single day, there's not a day that I leave here where I haven't learned something new today.
Yeah.
After that many years, and you're still learning something
Yeah.
new every single day.
Yeah. He was actually telling us this morning he was talking about how when it got started and
Good.
just the big copy machine
Yes.
that was like the size of his desk. And just, it is crazy to think about how much this business has changed. Like,
He used to handwrite settlement
that's what
statements
he
and
said.
hand deliver
With
them
a
to
pencil.
the. Yes.
They would use a pencil for closings.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
We would handwrite checks.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So for us to be, for the industry to be where it's at now is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, do you know, like, so if Lubbock Abstract has been there since early 1900s,
However long it's
right?
been, right?
At what point did title insurance become a thing?
I don't know. It's a good question. I should probably look into that.
Yeah. And I mean, I'd be curious because obviously it's lender required. We have
Absolutely.
to have a clear title to close,
Yep.
right? And so I'm curious then, like at what point did that become a requirement
Yeah.
from the lender,
No, it's a great
because our world
question.
has changed so much too.
Yeah.
So,
And I don't know. We always talk about, I should just disclaimer real quick. We always talk about how we are the oldest title company in town. We just think we pretty sure that's true. The
Yeah.
Avalanche Journal, they've gone back to their records and they can't find that there's a different title company from before us. So if there was a title company before us, I'm sorry, but I think we're the oldest
yeah.
title company.
Well, yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
And I would love to know what was title insurance like
Yeah.
back in the 1930s.
Or what caused us to need it.
Yeah.
Because every piece of paper we have, every document that is required now is
Right.
because something happened that became required,
Yep. I'll have to find that out and
Yeah,
I'll let you
curious.
Because
Yeah.
I'm curious now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Curious.
Well, so let's talk about just the challenges of, both of our businesses.
Yeah, it's hard.
It is hard. And I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten better at letting things roll off my back. But it's really hard.
Yeah.
Because we're not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And our business is just really hard sometimes.
It is.
So how do you stay encouraged and how do you work through those hard things?
I have to remind myself of my why every single morning. And I think that's with most things. I think you need to ground yourself back and remind yourself, why am I doing this? Why did I go down this path? I don't think I realized probably until about, 3-4 years ago, why I came down this path. Mm-hmm. And so I remind myself of that every single day. You do this because you want to help people. You do this because you want to educate. You do this because you want to help your community grow. You do this because you're meeting the people that are going to make Lubbock.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can have even a small positive impact on a person moving here from New Mexico into Lubbock, Texas for their first time, or someone who is leaving Lubbock after 5 years of not really great experiences here, but you can be that last good piece of experience for them and show them what Lubbock truly is, which is the people that live here. That's my why every single day. That's why I go to work every single day.
I love that.
Not only that, but I get to be with 7, 8 of my favorite people every single day. And I know that that's kind of cliche for some places, but I sincerely mean that.
Yeah.
I mean, I work with my mom, which is amazing. I work with Megan and Steve and all these other people who have been in my life and watched me grow up literally from being a custodian at Lubbock Abstract and Title Company to branch manager. And they've been there for me every single day. And it's so cool to get to do that because you don't get to do that at very many places.
No, you don't.
Not anymore.
No.
And so it is so much fun to get to do that.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. But that's my why. I want to make a small impact on every single person that I get a chance to come across.
Yeah.
And I'm not perfect.
No.
I make mistakes
Sure.
often. And I think the most important thing with making mistakes is realizing we are human. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that we're not expected to be perfect, Do we strive to be and do we want to be? And does it suck when we're not perfect? 100%.
Yeah.
But something in this last year for my professional maturity was realizing accept the fact that you made a mistake, figure out how and why, and try not to do it again.
Yeah.
But give yourself some grace
Yeah.
and some compassion.
Yeah.
I think that this industry is a grind, and it can wear you down really, 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 really quickly. We've seen some amazing people in the real estate industry leave because it's just too much sometimes, and that's no fault to them. It's just a really hard industry to be in. It's high stress. So if everybody just had a little bit of compassion for one another and a little bit of understanding and just stepping back and saying, okay, this wasn't ideal. I would have liked to have closed 2 days ago, but we're still going to close tomorrow, and it was just a 3-day delay. We're still doing good.
Yeah.
You're still going to get that house. It's just 3 days later.
Yeah.
Yeah, your movers are going to be upset. Yeah, your electrician, like the electricity is all going to be messed up, and but it's okay.
Yeah.
We can get past all that.
Sure.
So that's my goal
Yeah.
every single day, is just to help ease people and just do the right thing every single day.
Well, and I'm probably not going to say this right, but there's a quote about if it's not going to matter in 5 years, then does it really matter right now? In which I know in our business, that's easier
Right.
said than done,
100%.
right? Because that does mess people up, and nobody wants delays in closings.
No.
However, I will also say that even with myself, I mean, it wasn't in the last month. I had to call the listing agent. I'd called the buying agent, but I called the listing agent too. And that's been one thing I've always felt, that I don't mind calling a listing agent.
Not at all.
I don't even mind calling a seller.
No.
And saying, hey, I just want to let you know what's happening,
Yeah.
and this is what we're having to do.
Absolutely.
But if you can go with a plan and say, we've run into this problem, and here is how I'm working it out,
Yep.
that's all people care about.
Exactly.
They don't care that I don't even know if they really care that you messed up.
No.
They care that you care enough to call and communicate, and that you call with a plan of action.
Absolutely.
And so to me, that's how you build trust with people. And so that is what brings people back to you, is that, like I said, I had to call someone in the last month and say, hey, I need 3 more days.
Yeah.
And here's why. And did that listing agent like hearing that? Not really, but she trusted me,
Yeah.
and it was fine.
Yep.
But I know she respects me way more because I'm willing to call and have that
Absolutely.
conversation.
And that's the thing, and that's the other word. So compassion, but communication. And I think that as soon as the communication starts to stop, that's when the problems start to
Sure.
present themselves.
Yeah.
And communication's not going to keep everything away, but at least we can
No.
all walk through it and communicate how are we going to get through
Right.
it, like you said. If you have a game plan for something, it's going to make other people feel more confident in
Right.
you. So I think that's great.
Yeah. Well, and I think in our business, for the most part, everything is figure outable.
Yeah.
And that's what I always say is
Yeah.
that, and we do a lot of puzzles, I feel like, in
Absolutely.
our business. It's
Absolutely.
like you run into something, it's like, okay, how am I going to fix this?
Yeah, which has been fun because I love doing puzzles.
too.
But now that I have a 2-year-old at home, like puzzles are
It's
off
like the
limits
worst.
for a
Yeah.
while. So
Yeah.
work is my new puzzle.
Yeah.
Just figuring that out every single day.
Yeah.
It's so much
Yeah.
fun.
Well, I love that. Yeah, I mean, it is a very high stress industry,
Mm-hmm.
and it can eat your lunch. But stepping back and remembering why you do what you do, really just helps
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
a ton in the
Yeah.
whole process.
I'm going to be interested to see how, like when rates do drop,
Mm-hmm.
if they do drop, we should say, but when rates do drop, is it going to be as chaotic as the COVID timeframe was? Or is it going to be, did we learn from that